Hi, I'm Jami.
And I'm Hugo.
Welcome to No Particular Place to Go, where two middle-aged guys on opposite sides of the Atlantic talk rubbish about cars, car culture, ownership, track days, modifications, and pretty much anything else related to cars. We're not professionals, as you'll shortly hear, but a big part of our lives revolve around all things with four wheels. Thanks for joining us. We're back, and it's been a while. I feel like we have a lot of stuff that we want to talk about.
Mm,
Do you want to?
I have a list. You've got a list too, right, Jeremy?
I have a shorter list. I think you gave me a preview of your list last week. It sounded. Let's start with yours. Let's see what you've got over there over the pond.
All right, where to start? So I have just one quick observation for you, and we'll see where this goes.
Okay.
But I think maybe even it was after when we last abortively tried to have a conversation, and the software / hardware / your clumsiness got in our way. Is I put the TV on and the James Bond film Goldfinger was on.
Oh, yeah.
Halfway through, and there was some scene with old Sean Connery driving around in his Aston. And there were a couple of things that I noticed from that. Firstly, there's one part where he kind of opens the radio grill to expose his sat nav, and it's kind of how unbelievably amazing this is. And you're like, okay, well, actually we all have that. We might not have the rocket launchers and stuff in our cars, but we definitely have that.
We have that in our pockets, literally. It's like, okay, that's cool, I guess.
Okay, fine, that's whatever. No, that's not exciting, James Bond. I happened to note wooden steering wheel.
Oh,
which pretty tasty, I thought.
Yeah.
Quite like the idea of a wooden steering wheel. And I wonder why we don't have those anymore. Is it like sort of like a safety thing of you smash your head on it and it splinters or something? I don't know. Surely.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go head first into a modern steering wheel, assuming the airbag doesn't go off, I think you're gonna get pretty jacked up, right?
Yeah, right.
It's metal, right?
Yeah. I'd rather bang my head against wood than metal, I think.
Yeah.
Well, not that I'm generally in the habit of either of those things, but
I do like wooden steering wheels. I've never owned a car with a wooden steering wheel.
Me neither.
I've felt a wooden steering wheel, but I imagine I'm guessing bad in an accident, it could splinter, and then over time, the varnish wears away, so you may get a splinter that way. But then I think these are all possible reasons. I sadly think it's just going to come down to dollars and cents, though. It's it costs money to get real wood and shape it in this right way, and you have to employ an artisan to do this.
Yeah.
And it's just easier to we'll form metal and put plastic over it, and that's it.
Yeah.
My first car had a fully plastic steering wheel, which was hot as heck in the summer, and then of course freezing cold in the winter. But I also remember the other thing is it started to crack. And at one point, it started to crack right where the top hoop joins the main body of the wheel. So I thought at one point it would break, and I'd end up with a Knight Rider style yoke. And I actually thought that would be cool, but in hindsight, I'm really happy it didn't crack. That would have been bad.
Yeah. Do you think maybe that happened to a Tesla engineer to encourage them to think that having the yoke would be cool to put in the 1,000 horsepower plaid, whatever nonsense?
I think more likely. I think more likely one of Elon's billion children said Daddy, look at this. And he's like, oh, I should put that in my car. I mean, probably one of them drew the Cybertruck too. So
product designed by toddlers. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
There does seem to be who's in charge over there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think maybe the wooden steering wheel is due for a comeback, because even to your point, maybe the varnishing goes off and all that kind of stuff. But then you have to imagine I could just sand it and revarnish it because it's wood, right? Like a worktop or something. That seems like a more sustainable option to me. I remember reading some article about how they build scaffolding out of bamboo in lots of places in the world still. And that's actually much better than steel and whatever other nonsense.
And it grows so fast. Bamboo is super renewable. It grows.
Yeah, maybe
really
bamboo
quickly.
steering wheel is the answer.
Ooh, there we go.
Like the new Fiat Panda, the glove box is called the Bam box or something, right? And is made out of bamboo because it's panda.
Okay,
Brilliant.
Okay, that reminds me. Have you seen the Grande Panda?
Yes, that's what I mean. Well, it's
Oh,
not called
okay.
the new Panda is the Grande Panda,
Oh,
right?
it is the new. Okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
I two of our favorite podcasters keep referring to it as the Grandy Pandy, which it's like that makes me think of like granny panties when they say that. But it's like okay,
Well,
Grandy
yeah.
Pandy, cool. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're pretty cool actually. I quite like the look of them. And crucially you can get them on steel wheels.
Oh yeah. So yeah, the steel
Yeah.
wheel thing is that making a comeback over there? Because it's not here outside of Defenders that look
Yeah.
like Steelies.
Or a Grenadier. They're on
Yes.
Steelies, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
I think I might have mentioned I saw my first and
Yeah.
only Grenadier so far.
I saw one today. I'm curious. They probably seem a lot more reasonable in the US than they do here.
A bit. I mean, like this. So this one was fully kitted out. Like it had the traction boards and it had an extra jerry can in the back. And it was like putting around downtown Pleasanton getting ice cream. And I was like, okay.
Mm,
But you
yeah,
know what? Cool. Like we talked about posers before, and
yeah,
I'm a poser to a certain extent. It's like that's cool. If you want to be an overlanding off roading poser, knock yourself out. Because I'll take an Ineos Grenadier over like yet another Tesla or yet another TRD Camry any day. So cool. It's at least
yeah,
fun to look at.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I mean, you see them around in the UK a bit, and I mean, I think they're probably too big here. Firstly, like, I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to have to try and park one anywhere, and like heavy and thirsty and the whole bit. But I can kind of buy it. I mean, again, like we've talked about the driving that I do, and like down these like rutted country lanes, and it's been like it's winter, it's been raining a lot, there's an awful lot of water and mud and all the rest of it, and I'm like, yeah, like in a Grenadier with big knobby tires, like I buy it actually,
I think
and
that'd
they
be
do
really
look
fun.
cool.
Like there's a lot
Yeah,
of ways to enjoy driving and like it's not all about like taking corners fast. Like I actually think that would be really fun.
yeah. The thing that puts me off though, and like I read the reviews and a lot of it I go like, yes, this all makes sense to me, but like the what is it? It's like the recirculating ball steering that's
Yeah.
like a worm gear rather than the rack and pinion, and they're like basically you come around a corner, you have to wind off all the lock like really quick because it doesn't like self-center, and I'm just like, that sounds
Yeah.
like a ball ache. Like every time you turn the wheel, you got to do that. Like I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that would be reserved for a situation where like I'm doing some really heavy off-roading, overlanding on a regular basis. But if I do
Yeah,
that once a year, I think I'd probably just go with something that has better on-road manners, something
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
little bit more livable every day.
yeah. I mean, even a Defender at that point is like, probably night and day more of a road car, I would
Yeah.
expect.
Yeah, we were talking about the
Um,
Defender the other day, and like I still need to get behind the wheel of one because I just
mm,
can't get over how they look. I really like how they look, but I've never driven one.
yeah, they do look cool. I would also say they're quite kind of spec dependent, like depending on
Okay.
the color, depending on the wheels. Like, I mean, sometimes I think the 90s look like the coolest kind of Tonka toy, and sometimes they just sort of look a bit wrong.
Yeah.
And do you have the 130s over there as
We
well?
do the super long ones.
Mm,
Yes. Like 7-seater.
yeah. Again, some part of me is like, yeah, maybe that makes sense because it's already a big car. And then another part of me is kind of like, wow, it's like you paint it yellow and it's a school bus with that overhang on
Yes.
the back.
Yeah. And you had mentioned
Yeah.
the two doors, which I have to admit, I didn't really. Are they the 90s? I'm trying to remember.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the 90s.
So admit at first I was like, no. The 110 is the one to go, but the two door has really grown on me. I was at the track 2 weeks ago, and my friend Ben had one, and he uses it as
Mm,
his tow rig.
mm.
But yeah, it is really cool. If you don't need all that size, I think that might be
Yeah,
the way to go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think in some ways, like if you weren't regularly putting people in the back and you could just have the rear seats folded and chuck the dog in or whatever, like as a kind of two-seater, they're pretty awesome. Like, and like you get the V8 and stuff. I mean, that's probably quite an amusing vehicle.
Yeah.
Although at the same time, it's like I would be quite tempted to go the other end of the spectrum and get the sort of base model diesel on the smallest steel wheels and just kind of have it very kind of like farmer spec, because that's maybe a
Yeah.
bit more kind of honest.
Yeah,
But either way,
there's something like opposite of mall crawler with going with a very basic and like less flashy or less polished, I guess,
Yeah.
setup. It's like, okay, it's on Steely's and it looks like it just came off a farmyard versus like just left the Neiman Marcus parking lot.
Totally, totally. And that's why, like, to a degree, even like my old Rangy, I kind of like that it's a bit scratched and beaten up and it's generally filthy and covered with muck because it kind of is like, I park it up in town and you kind of like, yeah, I live in the countryside. Like I have a vehicle that is kind of useful for the countryside rather than, like some Cayenne on like 23-inch rims. And you're like, that's not an
Yes.
SUV. That's not ever gonna like. That's not even gonna go over like a curb, let
No. Well,
alone like
unless you accidentally go over one at the parking lot. That's pretty
yeah,
much it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
If you
want to get
accidentally run over a child, yeah.
God forbid. I do want to get back to your Range Rover. However, I did have a question. You're talking about steering wheels.
Mm,
Alcantara steering wheels or micro suede or whatever the different terms
mm.
are. Yay or nay?
So I've never lived with one.
Okay.
So I don't. So I mean, take this with a pinch of salt. I think I like the idea of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose my question would be like, because again, I think maybe with a lot of like leather steering wheels that I've lived with, and like again, the Range Rover being a good example of this, it's like they kind of wear in over time, and with like the kind of oil from various people's hands over hundreds of thousands of miles, and in some ways almost improve a bit with age,
Yeah.
right? Or at
Yeah.
least don't get too revolting. And I wonder what an Alcantara steering wheel after 15 years and several owners is going to be like.
So okay, so the first Alcantara steering wheel I had, and actually I can't remember if it was actually suede or Alcantara. I think it was actually suede. It was an aftermarket one that had the NSX, and man, like I think those things like initially were meant to be driven with gloves on. You're absolutely right. They absorb all the oil from your hands. They get dirty. And I did a very poor job of trying to maintain it. And within 12 months, it was very matted. Like it basically become shiny leather. It didn't look very good. And I actually gave it to my friend Eric, who, if I remember correctly, I think he cleaned it up really well. And he either used it in his Miata or used it as a sim rig. But he cleaned it up well. So he put the work in to make it nicer. I now have two cars with Alcantara, like half Alcantara steering wheel. One of them is really matted, and if I didn't tell you, mostly you would just say, "Oh, that's just leather, right?" And then the other one is in better shape, but it's starting to it needs some work. So I did some digging. I looked on YouTube. I was like, "All right, how do you take care of these things?" It's not easy. You need to clean these things if you're not wearing gloves, and most people aren't for their daily drives. You got to clean them like every, I don't know, 3 to 6 months. When they're in nice shape, it is really nice. I do think it's better than leather, but there's all this work that has to go with it to keep it that way. And I think one of the things I really dislike is one that's just all matted down. I would much prefer to just have leather because the matted Alcantara doesn't look very good. It feels bad. It's like crunchy and crusty and it gets funky. It gets pretty nasty.
That doesn't sound great. I mean,
No.
dumb question, but like, what's the benefit? Like, why do they do it? Is it just because it kind of looks more? It's kind of coded more like track and sporty, or is it cheaper, or like why would they even do it?
I think there's definitely I think initially this is a lot of guessing on my part, but initially I think manufacturers were like, "Oh, it's lighter and it denotes a more sporty car." It's like, yeah, I think ounce for ounce Alcantara is lighter than leather.
Yeah.
Especially BMW leather, where like the steering wheel is the size of my wrist. It's like, I don't know, it's like 2 cows just to cover the steering wheel. But I also think now it's also just like, oh, this is an alternative that's equally or maybe more luxurious than leather. You can get leather and everything now, but let me just go all Alcantara. And like, I don't know, like real Alcantara, like under the brand name, it's from a company called Torre in an Italian company. Yeah. And they control supplies of it very closely. Like it's very expensive per yard. But then, of course, you have everybody, including OEMs, that have come up with basically the same thing under a different name. And so I think it's just one of those things is like, oh, this is the new material that we can use instead of leather. It still feels luxurious. It feels sporty and it feels light.
Yeah. And is there also that thing of like, I don't know, the kind of like vegan leather which I think is like such a swizz. It's like, I mean, Tesla do this is all like vegan leather, and it's like, no, it's vinyl.
I was gonna
Right?
ask,
Like,
is it just
yeah,
vinyl?
yeah, of course. Or like, what is it? Like Mercedes has their like MB Tex, which is just it's vinyl,
It's
right?
just
Like it's
vinyl.
all
Oh
pleather, it's
gosh.
fake. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like that again, to that point of like even the sustainability in the sort of long term, like real leather, like it wears in, it sort of gets better over time, right? Like as long as you
Yes.
kind of look after it and it's
Yeah.
kind of like salvageable. Whereas like, if it's vinyl, it cracks and it's dead and that's it and it's gone,
I just
right?
think people can't be bothered to look after leather, but
Mm,
you're absolutely right. Like you
mm,
can bring back really bad leather or patch it or like I agree. It's way more sustainable. You don't have to replace the whole cushion or the whole covering for a lot of
yeah,
things that go wrong. You could re-dye it.
yeah.
There's a whole bunch of things you could do.
There's a lot that I read in their car mags where they talk about like non-leather interiors, and they're like, oh, we want cloth seats again, and like because like Porsche do the kind of like heritage, like kind of checkerboard, like, and I think Volvo do some like wool seats. I think actually like Jaguar Land Rover have been doing some sort of like wool stuff as well, and they're like, oh, it's so much better because it's like it's not kind of cold in the winter and hot in the summer. And I'm like, I like leather interiors.
I
Like, I
do
don't,
too.
let's,
I do too.
yeah.
Like I don't like I remember jumping in my mom's it was a Chrysler K car and it
Hmm.
had vinyl. And I mean,
Mm,
first the seat belts, if it was out in the sun or if it was hot, you sit on the seat belt, which is all metal, and it would burn your
oof,
thigh. And then the seat
yeah,
itself was blazing hot, and it had like this vinyl
yeah.
piping as well, which would be
Mm,
especially hot. Yeah, vinyl imitation leather, whatever you want to call it, like that definitely does not have a nice connotation in my
no,
mind
no, no, no,
at
no.
all.
And actually, this brings me on to something else that was on my list. Another thought that I've had recently:
Ooh, okay.
non-black car interiors.
Yeah.
Feels like, and particularly at the lower end of the market, it's hard to find cars nowadays that don't have black interiors or dark gray or whatever. And I think I'm getting to a point, and again, maybe this is gentlemen of a certain age, where it's like I'm not like I actively don't want to have a car that has a dark interior again. Like I mean, both of ours actually at the moment, like the Range Rover is like beige, even the Fiat is like it's got kind of like beige leather seats, and I'm like, I like it so much better. Like makes the car feel more sort of airy, gives it a bit more kind of interest. I have, however, zeroed in on my all-time favorite color scheme, I think, and definitely my favorite interior color
Ooh,
scheme. But
okay. Now,
before I get to that, tell me, like, what are your thoughts on the
oh,
dark
you're gonna
interior
keep me
versus the
waiting
light?
on.
Yeah,
No,
I'm gonna tease you.
I'm with you. So yeah, when I was younger, 20s, 30s, I was like, well, all black is the way to go.
Yeah,
I
yeah, me too.
really hated like all beige, for example.
Yeah.
My Mitsubishi Galant was just a sea of beige. But I think part of
Mm,
it was like there was no variation in the color. It was just like
mm,
beige, everything blended together, and I wasn't a fan. The two BMWs I've had gray, like light gray interiors, which I liked. I am starting to like more color though. I agree. Like
yeah,
all black, even when you have contrast stitching and stuff like that, it's like, you want,
yeah,
I don't know. I get in the car and I want something like a little bit lighter and less heavy.
yeah,
I'm with
yeah,
you. But
yeah,
I
definitely.
also feel like you have to either like as you said like go to kind of like more maybe like more expressive brands that are willing to take that risk, or you have to just spend a ton to get a
Yes.
nice light unique interior.
Yeah, yeah. If I remember rightly, your Civic Type R had bright red front seats and the
That's
rest
right.
of the interior was black. Is that right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
pretty
don't
cool,
know. I,
actually.
I wish they'd put red on the seats in the back. I think that would have been really
Mm,
cool because it felt
mm,
like it's like, okay, great. You guys did an awesome job with the color combos in the front, and then you just kind of forgot about the back. Or it's like two different
mm.
cars. Very jarring. But
Yeah,
I wonder if a lot of buyers would have been put off by that much red.
yeah, possibly, possibly. Although that said, I think that's my color. I've decided.
I'm waiting for the tart handbag comment to come
Exactly,
in.
exactly that. Well, I mean, we've talked about this before, like that Mark One TT. that I had some years ago that was silver with a bright red interior. Like,
Yeah.
actually, I look back on now and I go, I think that's possibly my favorite combination, or maybe a sort of like gunmetal gray, even with an ox blood, something like that. Like, again, back to the, the DB5 in Goldfinger. Somehow I had remembered that as having a red interior and probably like more of an ox blood than a black. But at least in the shots that I saw, it was just black or very dark gray, and that was a bit disappointing to me
Oh,
as
really? I
well.
figured James Bond. Yeah, it feels like, yeah, you have a subtle outside and then you reserve the flair for the inside. It's like the world doesn't
Right,
need to see it, but I do.
like a Paul Smith suit kind of thing. You have the
Yeah.
lining that is like, yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I'm thinking red then, and I'm like, okay, well, what cars can you even get with a red interior?
Ooh.
And like what looks good with a red interior? I mean, obviously there's a certain manufacturer from Milan, right? I think
Yeah,
they
I
are
think so. Yeah.
that make vehicles with Ferrari engines that will often do a red interior
Yes,
that
yes,
can
that's
look pretty
true.
nifty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I had that interior on mine. I really like that. Like it's mostly black, but there's a lot of red on it. Like the dash is red.
Mm,
Oh man, that looks good. It looks really
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Either and also like I think like Porsches tend to look like when you see them with the sort of red interior on the over the silver or the gray. Like there was a Boxster, I want to say like RS60, which is like kind of like the second generation Boxster. It was like a, do you know what I'm talking about? It was a
Yeah.
sort of special edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think even like the convertible hood was red, which I quite like that
Ooh.
as well. Like a colored convertible roof.
Yeah.
If it fits with the rest of the color scheme, like I'm into that.
That Porsche takes risks with this. Like you'll see like often a pastel green or a yellow or an orange. And I'm assuming it's individually ordered. It's not like, oh, they just built this for normal
Mm,
stock. But that is like I like that. I think that
yeah,
all looks really good.
yeah. I mean, I think one of the, not that I spend that much time on the configurator, but a little bit, like one of the, I don't know, it's not one of the free colors, but it's one of the sort of more like kind of baseline ones is like this kind of like light mauvey kind of purple thing. And I've definitely,
Ooh.
I'm pretty sure I've seen some like Taycans around in that color. I
Yes.
mean, even the chalk is quite a kind of, is quite a nudge. Like, and yeah, I agree with you. I definitely, it's like there are so many cars, and I think they just released the stats again in the UK a few weeks ago. Like, gray is like half of the market that gets
Oh
sold, and then it's
gosh.
black, and then it's white, and then maybe dark blue or something. And you just go, well, I don't know that you'd want your house to look like that. So why have such a boring like
Yeah.
palette?
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's like people will paint their homes in at least like no, it's not neon green, but they're unique, and yet they're so conservative with their cars purely for resale. I'm
Mm,
assuming like it's the same here. It's just like I'll stop at an intersection, I'll look and go 90% of these cars are black, white, gray, or silver, or some grayscale, and it's
yeah.
so boring. And well, I finally have more color in my cars. I have one grayscale car. The other two are actual colors. But it's also hard to find colors on
Yeah.
cars.
Yeah.
Manufacturers don't make them that much.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, and yet when you do see them, they can like particularly when they're kind of unexpected. And I'm thinking like there was that special edition P38 Range Rover from like the early noughties that was bright yellow. And
Oh
I
yeah.
forget the name of like but it was in like that film Layer Cake, with like the iron on the thing. And like that just looks so cool because so many of those P38s, they're all like black, dark blue, dark green,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, and then you see the bright yellow and you're just like, yes, that's the one. And even they did those like G4, was it like G4 challenge or something? They did like the first like LR3 and
Yes.
like a kind of quite bright orange. It's like
Yes.
that was very cool. It's like, why aren't there more bright orange discoveries walking driving
Yeah,
around?
I think
Like
I
that would
I
be way
mean
more fun.
I don't know how many of those special colors they produced, but I imagine that they were in demand. People wanted them. It's something unique. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
bit over the top for someone who wants like a silver car, but I think there's interest in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Range Rovers, how
Mm.
goes your L322? You're laughing, and that's like a
I,
my
I'm
wallet has been
laughing.
destroyed laugh.
Yeah. 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 I mean, overall, I would say I am still enjoying it. I am still enjoying it.
Oh, I feel a
Although
bump
this
coming
this
up.
was something that maybe the sidebar, and we can come back to this, but I've now owned it for coming up on 6 months, and I wanted to ask you about the 6 month itch
Is it only
because
6 months? Is that it?
oh no, I'm bad, Johnny.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, but anyway, yes, it's doing well. And as I say, like for the conditions that we've been in, like, and we've had some pretty like icy mornings and stuff like that. And there is something that's really nice about something that has like heated steering wheel, heated seats, like the heat, the windscreen heating works really well. And then you go out on an icy road and you're just like, what icy road? Like
Yeah.
I'm good. And
Yeah.
like, I mean, we've literally seen people like pirouetting down country lanes because they've
my
lost it in their Scandinavia estate, and I just kind of sit there laughing at them really. So that part is pretty good.
Okay.
It is due back in the garage.
No.
Again. For a few things.
Okay.
So I think I had shared that like it was making some weird clonking noises from the suspension.
Yes, I remember you mentioning that.
And they had isolated this to, I think, like the bearings in the driver's side strut tower. And so they had ordered the part, and then the part finally came in, and I booked it in, and they got it up on the ramp to fit it. And then they realized that the part that had come in was for the left side, and they needed the right side.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So make of that what you will. British efficiency, attention to detail, etc. So it's booked to go. I'm back there next week to get that sorted.
Okay.
It's started throwing up some more error messages, which apparently are more due to the sensors failing than actually the sort of functional systems failing.
Okay.
So one of them was like, for a while it was asking for a lot of oil, and I gave it some oil, but it doesn't have a dipstick on it. You know, it's all just like through the screen. And so I'm not very mechanically minded. So I put some oil in it, and then I asked the mechanic, and he's like, oh, actually it's the sensor that's gone wonky. It's nothing to do, it doesn't really need oil. And I was like, okay. Like it flashed something up as well about like I went through a puddle and it was like there is water in the fuel tank. Stop immediately.
What?
And I was like, what?
Okay.
And looked up, and I was like, it's a Range Rover, right? It's supposed to go through puddles. And then on the forums, apparently this is a known issue, and it's like, yeah, just ignore it. And I was like, okay. So there's all of that. But with all of that together, and hang on, what's the other thing? There's like some tensioning thing to do with one of the belts. So that basically, again, when you go through a puddle, it makes all the kind of screeching noises like an old Range Rover.
Great.
Anyway, all of that together, its warranty is, the extended warranty is coming up for renewal like in a week or so.
I was going to say, when does the extended warranty end?
Yeah, so basically it was like a 6-month thing from when I bought it. So that's hence the 6-month itch. They quoted me, I think, £1,000 for another year's worth of extension on it.
That doesn't seem bad at all.
Which, yeah, actually doesn't. I think it's not given the amount that it's been in the shop in the last 6 months. It's probably, I'm sure that would have been £1,000 worth. But interestingly, I was chatting with the like mechanic there, and it's like this independent kind of dealer, and he's ex-main dealer, and he was like, and I said to him, like, what do you think? Is that worth it? Like, I mean, you know the car, like you've worked on it, like are we in good shape, having gone through all this sort of shakedown over the last 6 months? And so it's unlikely it's going to need anything, or do you think it's getting to that moment where it's going to need stuff? And I mean, in fairness, he was like very sort of open and honest, and he's like, look, you get these extended warranties, they don't necessarily cover everything. And like, often you get these kind of like, I don't know what the right word for it is, but like when one thing fails, and then that kind of has downstream impacts and causes other things to fail, and they'll only cover one thing, they won't cover everything that's gone wrong. And he's like, you have to look really, really carefully at all the fine detail, because a lot of stuff they'll just say that's wear and tear and they won't cover it. And he said to me, he was like, the sales guys won't thank me for saying this. And he's like, but honestly, you're better off to just put £1,000 aside in your savings account and like, expect to pay for it out of pocket as and when things happen, because they might not, kind of thing.
That's a tough one. Yeah, I mean, I think warranties, that's a really good point. It's like you may think they cover everything, but you need to be aware. One of the other things, I'm curious if your shop has had this. I find that shops, like, yes, the warranty's there, but it's always a hassle to work with the warranty unless it's, say,
Mm,
from the OEM. Like, if you
mm,
buy an Alpha and you buy they call it's Mopar because it's part of Stellantis, but
yeah,
if you buy a Mopar
yeah, yeah.
warranty, which costs a little bit more than, say, one from Zurich, which is a very reputable company, but it's just easier if you're a dealer working with the Mopar warranty than it is with the
Right.
Zurich one.
It's sort of like in network versus out of network in healthcare or something.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So,
have they mentioned
so
anything about that?
no, because it's a, an older vehicle at this point.
Okay.
Because it's like, like in the UK, there's lots of these like kind of like when you do your car insurance, there's like all these sites where you can like compare all these providers, and they do the same for like extended warranties. But like when you put in the details, and it's sort of like, oh yeah, it's a 15-year-old Range Rover with over 100,000 miles in it. Like they might as well just put lol on the screen, because it's like, yeah, nobody wants to take that risk on. Thank you
They're
very
like, it'll be
much.
50,000 pounds a year, sir.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're
Thank
like,
you.
what is the scrap value of this car? There we go. That's the number that we're going to put in front of you. Yeah. So at least so far, that doesn't seem to have been such an issue. But I think it's just one of those where it's like, yeah, I'm going back and forth a little bit on that, because on the one hand, it's like I've done quite a few miles in it, and it has had a good shakedown, and I feel
Yeah.
like it's in good shape at this point. I mean, the known issues notwithstanding, but at the same time, it's like it's one of those where like I really sort of rely on it, and it's
Yeah.
not necessarily the most reliable car in the world to begin with, but like where we live and the driving we do and stuff, it's like if it was out of action, that would be a real pain. So
And
yeah,
so has
that's
that
where we're at.
has
Hmm?
that I guess that consideration driven you to taking a peek at the classifieds and what else is out there?
Little bit, yeah. I mean, there's that, and there's also like potentially another child is returning to the nest and already complaining about geographic location and the absence of public transport.
Mm,
I mean, she at least has a license, so I mean, I think if she does wind up with us for the an extended period, like we won't like we'll need another motor.
okay. So what's on
Mm.
the consideration set?
Well, this is what leads me back to the Honda E comment from before,
Okay.
where I have, as I said, I have a tab open now, and I just think they're cool. I'm quite into the whole sort of concept of it, and
Yeah.
I think again, like to the sort of like for the job that it would do. I mean, a bit like the electric Fiat 500 that we have. Like, there's an awful lot of just like bopping around locally, and then it costs £3 to fill the battery overnight, kind of thing. And particularly like once you've been driving around in a creaky old Range Rover, to like hop into like a little EV, it's quite a lot of fun.
And how much,
So
like, what do they go for? I have no, because we didn't have them here, I don't know much about what they cost
yeah,
new, how much they depreciated.
and they were expensive new. I mean, I guess like a lot of EVs were, but I think they were like 37 grand or something when they came out,
Whoa.
which
Okay.
is which is a lot. I mean, like all cars have got expensive. I mean, on both sides of the pond, right? But
Yeah.
like, yeah, that was a lot 5 years ago. And now, I mean, you see them from 11, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah.
That's really
And
good.
and without a huge amount of miles on them. I mean, I think the drawbacks, as they said when they were new, and is still kind of true, is like the range is not massive. They're really sort of like a city car. Like you're probably getting 100 miles on it, kind of
Okay.
thing. And then the boot is tiny, so you're not going to put a stroller in there, and you're not going to go camping in it. But
Okay.
then, like, I wouldn't sort of care about either of those anyway. And and on the plus side, it's like, well, they're supposed to be actually quite fun to drive, because they're like, the rear wheel drive, and they, supposed to ride well and be sort of, Honda build quality, and famously amazing turning circle, like a
Okay. Okay.
London taxi around the Savoy. kind of thing.
Are they? I've only seen them in white or maybe red as well. Do they have like a decent selection of
Mm.
colors?
I think they did like 5 colors or something. There's like white, black, gray. There was a blue and a kind of like lime yellow.
Oh, okay.
I
Maybe
think that
I'm
was about it.
imagining that it was in red.
Yeah. I don't think
Okay.
they sold very many of them at all. But yeah, I'm kind of quite I'm a little bit into that idea. And I also, because you don't see many of them on the road. And
Yeah.
I think again to what we were saying before about the kind of like, what was your term for it, the kind of mall crawler or
Yeah.
whatever, like all these like 3-ton SUVs with the massive wheels on and all the rest of it that cost 100 grand at this point. And I'm like, actually, I think I might feel a bit cooler just like creeping around in a little electric Honda
Yeah.
with cool circular headlights and taillights and a
Yeah.
sort of
Definitely a
digital fishbowl.
very cool kind of like futuristic retro vibe. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'm sure it's fun to drive. I know it's been well reviewed. I think people's biggest gripe was the range, but if you don't
yeah,
need massive range, who cares? It's a
yeah,
great pickup. Nice.
yeah. I mean,
Well,
and in a way, I think it's kind of like, because the range thing, it's like, well, I have a car that's good on the motorway that I would happily drive all day, that I would drive all the way down to France,
yeah.
assuming it wouldn't break down. So I don't like that wouldn't kind of be a concern. I think it's probably hard to have something like that as your only car.
Yeah.
But then that said, again, like so much of the stats is like most people, at least sort of in Europe, don't drive more than like 20 miles most days, something like that, like 90% of journeys. And
Yeah.
so then again, are you buying a vehicle for the 1, 5, 10% cases of when you're doing a longer journey? And like you're not going to want to stop and go for a wee anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I think in
yeah.
the US, I think it's similar, but like 30 miles. So they're not driving that far actually. But I think a lot of the fear is like, well, I might just decide to drive to LA on a whim. It's like, probably not,
Yeah.
but point taken. But in your case, like, well, you have another car that uses
Yeah.
gas and you can do that. That's,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, okay. Well, let us know. Keep us updated.
I'll keep you posted. I'll keep you posted. I mean, I still also have a minor kind of, is inkling the right word? Or maybe I have a bit of a Jones. Is that also the
You're
right word?
jonesing. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
you just
jonesing
Yeah.
for a Fiesta ST.
Ah, yeah. So that's one that I looked at recently as well.
Mm,
It's manual only, right?
yes.
Okay. Which, yeah, that was a deal breaker for me because it needed to be driven by the other drivers in our household. And as much as I love a nice manual, and I was daily driving a manual for, I don't know, several months, it gets old in the commute.
Yeah. I mean, I think again that's something that I probably like, given a kind of commute situation, I wouldn't want to do anymore either.
Yeah.
But since I work from home, and again, like a lot of my driving is like bombing along little country lanes, I'm like kind of like, yeah, maybe that would work.
Yeah.
I told you I test drove one a few
No.
months back. Yeah, it was back in the summers before I got the Range Rover. I guess I was cross shopping between a Ford Fiesta and a Range Rover.
And you were, well, if you're still kind of jonesy for it, it sounds like you were impressed.
Well, there are some cars that you get in and they just feel good going down the road.
Yeah.
Something about maybe like the way like the sort of control weights all came together, like the sort of the harmony between like the steering and the chassis and maybe like the damping and stuff. And it's like, it feels like sort of like a sporty kind of, little car. But I mean, even like you're in a Recaro seat and like, yes, it's a manual, but the controls are sort of light enough. And I was just like, it's just kind of felt good to drive.
Yeah.
A bit like, I mean, I don't know whether you'd be familiar, but like in the UK when I was a kid, you used to get like milk in pint glass bottles.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then you'd just like pick it up and it would just like feel good in your hand.
Yeah.
Like without meaning to sound revolting. Like there are some things that just feel good in your hands.
Yeah. No, it's something like the shape is right. It's not like, I know where you're going. I'm
Tell me
trying to
what you're
avoid
thinking
it.
about, Tommy, you filthy boy.
I'm talking about milk, damn it. Stay on task. We're talking about milk.
We're talking about cars, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Good.
yes.
Yeah.
No, maybe there's a market for milk jug shaped shifters for manual cars. You know, they just feel good in your
Yes.
hand, and
Yes.
yeah. I think you should do that.
Did your CTR have the kind of spherical aluminium?
You know, I'm trying to remember. Was it just like a ball, or was it this kind of like finely sculpted thing? I honestly can't remember. Wow, it's been a while. I can't remember what it looked like.
Huh.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
That interests me. I remembered at that time, like I feel like you were very excited to get that car, and you were quite sort of passionate about that car for a while.
I was, and I was. It was a great car. I think I think what I wanted it to do was a mismatch for what it was good at. And I think the biggest one was I wanted that to be my daily driver and my primary track car. And this is, I don't know, maybe this is one of those things where it's like you test drive and you learn this before you go and buy a damn car. But like I learned I don't really like front wheel drive on track. And then that car, like, it's funny because now, yep, you still see Type R's on track for sure.
Yeah.
You see the FK8, you see the FL5, but you know, they still are prone to overheating. The FK8 especially. You know, Fenton has basically the same car. He's got his Integra Type S, and he tracks the heck out of it, but it's not worry-free. Especially if you're putting a tune on it, you're not doing like cooling mods for it. So it's kind of a pain, but I think he's enjoyed tracking a front wheel drive car. For me, the 3 or 4 times that I tracked mine, I was just like, I'm not. It's a very different driving technique, which I thought was interesting. Like learning a very different way of driving it. But I like the rear wheel drive thrills, and I like when the back end steps out on you and like that level of balance. Like it's not that front wheel drive cars can't be set up that way, but maybe it was a lack of experience. Maybe it was a lack of research on my part, but I wasn't digging it.
Yeah. That's fair. And what about like on the kind of daily driving front? Did it do that okay?
Daily driving was fantastic. It was great. It was very versatile. Civics, modern Civics are pretty large cars, and so like tons of space in the back, like almost as maybe as voluminous, like from a cargo perspective, as my CTSV. You put the seats down in the Civic, and there was a ton of room in the back. Comfortable enough, more than comfortable enough to put around in. You know, just kind of, you know, we all 3 of us would go out. I'd drop my kid off at school and all that kind of stuff, regular stuff. It was fine at that. It was more than fine. It was great. One thing that people had beef with that they added later was it didn't have the full safety suite that non-Type R Civics had. So you're like, wait, I'm buying like the top of the range, and it doesn't have some of the like radar cruise control and kind of safety stuff like that a lower spec Civic does. They added that later. But I do think it's a great car. I think the other thing about that car that was really interesting is my own perspective on how it looked changed day to day. I was more sympathetic to him when I owned it, and I'd come out and be like, man, that's a really cool looking car. And then there's other times I would look at it and go, that is a butt ugly car. It's just like that. And I would just go, well, I don't care. I'm not seeing the outside when I'm driving it. What's surprising is when I brought it home, my wife liked it. She's like, that's a good looking car. And I mean, it's a very common critique. It's like, oh, it looks like a boy racer and swoops and vents and blah, blah, all that. I think Honda went too far the other way with the FL5. It's too subdued, in my opinion. But it was a cool car. I'm very happy that I owned it and I experienced it, but it wasn't meeting my use case at the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that you say that about the, like, particularly the kind of like I suppose the track experience, the performance experience of what is ultimately supposed to be like billed as maybe not like fully a track car, but definitely a lot more kind of focused than the standard. Because I mean, I think back to my like Golf R, and like in some ways similar, right? Like, you know, was a nice daily driver, right? And was comfortable and was quiet and sort of did all the things. And yeah, I mean, I never took it on track, but like, I think one of the things that I found with it in some ways was it was a bit boring. Like it was a bit too kind of like competent, and like there never felt like there was much kind of character to
Yes.
it, whereas in some ways, like, and I think we've talked about this before, like that kind of old thing of like sometimes things that are worse are actually a bit better.
Yeah.
I mean, like my crumbling old Range Rover is a case in point, right? It's like it's got character in spades, and it's like you form a bond with it, but it's like, it's kind of falling apart. And that Golf was like, I mean, other than the whole clutch thing, which was ridiculous, but like, it was kind of too, almost sort of too good in some ways.
Yeah, it's so two things come to mind. Like, one is there's a very big difference between being track oriented on street and then putting that car on track. Like driving a car on track to 8/10, 9/10 levels that you will never reach on the street unless you're an absolute moron. Cars fall apart fast between 7/10 and 9/10. And that's a very high bar. So yeah, you'll see marketing say, oh, track ready, blah, 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 blah. Very few cars off the showroom are actually track ready. You've got like the Porsche GTs, you've got some Corvettes, like Camaro SS, 1LE, things like that. But very few cars are actually ready to just hit the track as is. And so it really kind of separates those who are really competent and performing versus those who are just talking. And most cars are just talk. So it's Civic Type R on the street, great experience. In my experience, pushing on track was like, this thing needs suspension. It needs a lot of cooling work. So you're talking about investing quite a bit. The other thing that you said about, being over competent. So like not all of my friends, but a lot of my friends have gone from, Japanese cars to Porsches and sometimes back. And I get asked a lot. It's like, how come you haven't like bought a Porsche? It seems like my current use case, replacement for the NSX, like a Cayman GT4 is the perfect replacement. And I agree.
Yeah.
On paper, it is. But I've driven a GT4 on the street. I've driven a GT4 on track, and I felt pretty much nothing. And I'm stealing words like these are common stereotypes people say like in the motoring press, but they're right. Like it felt sterile. I didn't feel emotion. It is very competent, but I didn't get out of that car going, wow, what a drive. That was awesome. It's just like, it's very good at what it does, but it feels clinical, sterile, lack of emotion. Again, none of my original words, but they do explain how I felt.
And some of that, like my understanding as well, is like in some ways because like the limits are high, right? Like maybe if you were a professional race driver and you could really like find the edges of it, but like for most people, most of the time, like they're not going to. And that's again like kind of the argument for like the NX5 or the sort of GT86 type of thing, where it's like there are more occasions that more people can actually like find that kind of like take it a bit further. I mean, even as you're describing that, like I was thinking about like when I've driven Caterhams, right? It's like in many ways, objectively, they're slow and they're like all of these things. Like they're never going to hold a candle to like a GT4 on track, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, it's like you're really having an experience, right? And you're really driving that thing, and it's really having an impression. And in a weird way, it's like very sort of like mindful and like satisfying because like you're really kind of in it and it's there. And part of that is because it's kind of not very good in some ways.
I mean, I think the ultimate trait of a car that you're tracking, and it's hard to achieve, but I think the ultimate trait of a car that you're tracking is it's not too difficult. It doesn't feel like it's always trying to kill you or spin off the track and send you sideways. But it's also not too easy. And I think that's a criticism that's lobbed at Porsches. Also that it can be super fast, but in the right hands. And I think as a driver, you want to feel like you have those right hands, or you could with time. So it's kind of, I mean, it's almost like it's almost like a video game. It's like, well, is this a video game that anyone can beat in 2 hours? That's not really fun. Like
Yeah,
Did I have
too
to
easy,
become
right? Yeah,
smarter or find new ways to approach it? And those new ways to approach it are actually fun and not irritating.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that's one of the things about cars is like we're at its core, it's being controlled by a person, and everyone has different sets of skills and different things they're good at. Maybe I'm really good at trail braking, but I am terrible at, I don't know, over braking for turns or carrying speed. So like different cars are set or
mm,
are a good match for
mm,
different skill sets. And
mm,
you want one that it's like, well, after the first track day, I did everything I could with it. It's done. It's over. You know, I beat the game on the first day. It's like, and some cars,
yeah,
maybe you never quote unquote beat the game. So I think that
yeah,
discovery of the car and as you level up, the car levels up with you or reveals more of
yeah,
itself.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's a lot of fun. And some people
yeah,
are just like, well, I just want to go fast. And that's all that matters. Like, okay, there are cars that are kind of the easy button for that. Others
yeah,
say, I don't care about times. I want to have the most fun. And there's cars
yeah,
for that. And I think where I am in my, not to sound like a total douchebag, but like where I am in my driving journey, if you will, is
yeah,
like, I
yeah,
want
yeah,
somewhere in between there.
yeah, yeah. Makes complete sense. Makes complete sense. Yeah. Yeah, because I think particularly that sort of analogy with like video games is like really apt, right? Like you don't want something that's kind of like is boring straight away. You don't want something that you're never going to be able to actually really kind of master, but
Yeah.
like to have something that is kind of like that sweet spot and that you can kind of grow with.
Yeah. Like
So with all of that said, and you used the phrase NSX replacement a couple of times there. I mean,
yeah.
are you still looking?
I mean, yeah, I am. I
Yeah,
so yeah, there've been a couple garage updates. So yeah, but you know, gosh, since the end of the year. So the NSX has departed. It's gone off to my good friend Victor. I will reveal
yeah.
his name now. I won't blow up his Instagram and all that kind of stuff, but local friend that
Hmm.
I've known for a number of years, and he expressed interest the first day I was telling friends like, hey, I decided, like literally I think I said like, hey, last night or maybe the night before I decided that it's time. And he called me that
Mm.
evening. I'd actually seen him at a car meet that day, and he was looking out in person, and he asked some friends. He's like, hey, is Johnny an idiot? Is his car a piece of junk? And luckily they said no, because it wasn't. And we talked and we hammered out a deal that night. So within like 24 hours, I essentially had it
That's
sold.
great. And
Yeah.
and that must be nice as well to know that it's like it's gone to a good home. Like, I mean,
Yes.
you'll probably see it again, right?
I saw this past weekend.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I saw it again this past weekend. I'll probably see it a lot.
Yeah.
And
And
he's
how
already
was
made
that?
some changes to
Was
it.
it nice to see it again, or did you feel any regret?
You know, I felt no regret. People were asking me, like, is it weird to see it? And I was like, it is kind of weird to see it because in my mind, it's still like, oh, that's your car. And like, I remember at
Yeah.
one point, someone was getting out of a car next to it. I was like, don't door ding it. And I was like, well, I mean, obviously it's not mine, but I still don't want anyone to, damage it.
Yeah.
But I think what I found is Victor absolutely loves the car, and I find that so
Mm.
cool. And he shared with me like he lets people drive it. A lot of people have driven it, and he's just like, oh my god, everyone who drives it is just blown away by it. And I think he
Mm.
texted me. He texted me the day that he picked it up. Him and a buddy came, and he let his buddy drive it, and he's like, oh man, he got out of the car shaking. And things like, I never knew a car could make me feel like that. I was like, that's awesome. It makes me
Wow.
proud. It also makes me really happy
Mm.
that people are enjoying it, not just the owner,
Yeah.
but his friends as well, which I think is really cool. And I can tell like
Yeah.
he's over the moon with the car. He loves it, which is great. And that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it's local. So it's like, I am
Yeah.
going to see, like, he's even told me, he's like, if you want to drive it. And I was like, I'm not going to drive someone else's car.
Too
Like,
soon. Too
it feels
soon.
too risky. But,
Yeah.
yeah, so the NSX is gone. The BMW is gone, I think, at the time we recorded last, which also went to a friend who's had kind of a bear of a time with it. It hasn't been super cooperative. It's old BMW doing old BMW things, which is not great. But he's working on it and he's enjoying it. And then I sold my Lexus ISF. So I might have mentioned it had a very minor fender bender. Like super minor. Somebody had cut in front of the car from the right side and scraped the bumper on that corner. But when they when they hit the bumper, it bent and it pulled the connecting tab to the fender. So the fender was slightly bent as well. So fortunately, the body shop, local Ariana body shop, they took it in and they were able to repair the fender, which meant it didn't need paint. So you didn't have to worry about color matching, all that stuff. They replaced the bumper. And in the time it was gone, it took a long time to get parts. And then there was an issue with the airbag seat sensor, and that needed to be replaced. It was a whole thing where it was parts, waiting at parts. And then while it was gone, I was like, you know what? I don't miss that car at all. I don't miss it one bit.
Yeah, I remember you saying, yeah,
I didn't miss it at all. And I was kind of, you know me and these freaking Giulia Quadrifolios, man. I can't stop. And so while that was gone, I was talking to my wife and I said, I think I want to get another one of those. She's like, why do you want to get two of the same car? She's like, you could just drive mine whenever you want. I was like, yeah, but you love that car, right? She said, yeah. And I was like, I can't really drive it whenever I want, because if I do the school run and then I'm off to work, the car's sitting there, and then what are you driving? And she's like, well, we can get something. I was like, no, I don't want to. Like, you love this car. I don't want to take it. Like, that feels wrong, right? It's like your car, and I just like it more, or I like it, so it's mine now. Like, that doesn't feel right. And so I just did the math. I was like, well, for what I paid for the ISF, it is not providing that level of joy. So bye. So got rid of the ISF, sold it pretty quickly. And then I was on the search, and we were talking about car colors, right? So I had it down to two cars. It's like, okay, current Mazda 3 all-wheel drive turbo, which is like, I don't know if I would call it a warm hatch. It's not a hot hatch, but it's a warm hatch. Yeah. One of the biggest things is they make very few colors in that trim level. They have more color offerings for like the lower trim levels, if you want just front wheel drive, etc. But for that trim level, the only real color is the same Soul Red that my Miata is. And then everything else is grayscale, except they had this one beige, which beige exterior, it can work on some cars. It doesn't work on this. So I was like, all right, it's gray, beige, black, white, and one actual color. So I was like, that's tough. And my wife's not a huge fan of that body style. The visibility is kind of compromised. And then I was like, all right, for the same price of that, I've had my eye on a 19 and up dark blue Giulia Quadrifoglio for a while. There aren't a lot of them out there because I think they stopped making that color in 2020. I really wanted the 19 because you're guaranteed to have fold down seats. They added them at the end of the 2018 year, but then it's kind of hit or miss. You might get them, you might not. So I found one. In Alabama. It was at a dealer who specializes in off-road Jeeps. So not an Alfa Romeo specialist. But it was a good deal. It was odd. When I was looking, I was like, oh, there's way more dark blues than there used to be a few months ago. But 2 or 3 of them were at like questionable dealers. I was reading the reviews and people were like, these dealers are a ripoff, they're shady, blah, blah, blah. Some had high miles, they're like 90,000 plus. There was one in Seattle that was priced, in my opinion, quite a bit above market, and they would not budge on the price. So, okay, it might still be sitting there. So I was like, all right, this Alabama one, it was like, good, like 15 grand below a comparable car. So really good deal. So I bought it. Yeah. I did an inspection with Lemon Squad. The inspection, as I found out later, was not good. It wasn't very thorough. So there's a couple glaring things that they didn't call out. The biggest one, by far the biggest one, is, and I went back after discovering this. So one day what was I doing? Oh, I was looking under the hood of the car, and I happened to look down, and I was like, what the hell is that? And I look in the passenger side front bumper cover is a freaking self-tapping screw through the bumper cover, and that's what's holding the bumper cover in place.
Oh my god!
And I had the car about a week, so clearly I didn't look at it that carefully. I mean, it was dark; I didn't have much chance to like actually look at it in person. But anyway, there's a screw through it, and I was like, "What the hell? Where? What?" So I do know that the Giulia bumper covers, they are notorious for breaking the tabs that hold them in place. So that's probably why they did it. But that wasn't noted on the inspection report. I went back to the inspection report and I saw you could just see it in one of the pictures. But in the text of the inspection report, it said body's clear, body's clean, no issues. Like, okay. So that's about a $3,000 fix. Yeah. I was like, okay, I'll put that on the back burner. I'll do that eventually. But that's a $3,000 fix. The other one that was not noted is, so they sent in the inspection report, they turned it on, they kind of sat in it. They didn't get a chance to drive it, I guess, because there wasn't a salesperson available to go with them. Fine.
Okay.
But I get it off the transporter, and I immediately, when I turn the wheel, hear a very concerning creak from the front right side. I was like, what is that? Okay, that's weird. So I think I mentioned with these cars, I go to the dealer.
Yeah.
I'm not going to an NDA for a bunch of reasons. One is like parts availability. Two is like, do you have the software? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that's a concerning creak. So I take it to the dealer, and they said, hey, we got bad news. The two upper control arms on the front passenger side need to be replaced. I was like, wait, okay. From the NSX world, you know that some ball joints and bushings can be replaced. Some can't. You just replace the arm. Both of these are you just replace the whole arm. Yeah. So all in for that, as well as recalibrating the front-facing radar because they had to do an alignment, it was $6,000. So yeah. So I was like, okay, this is a bit more of a project than I thought. Okay, interesting. So not happy to drop that $6,000 after I bought the car, but it was still, even factoring that in, still a good deal. And then my last bugaboo that I'm trying to chase is previous owner did something with the exhaust. So it has valved exhaust. And unless you put it in race mode or unless you're full throttle, the flaps stay closed. They're vacuum actuated. So you give it enough gas and the vacuum will open the flaps, and you have kind of like the more fruity exhaust. Well, they've rigged it so the flaps are always open. And so it's always loud, and it sounds terrible. It sounds so bad. It's like the most drony, raspy, like beat up sounding car. It sounds
good
bad.
Loud then.
Not at all. Not at all. It sounds fine like full throttle, but when you're putting around or you're driving or even just like cruising, one, it drones, two, it sounds bad. So I did some research. There's a number of ways you can make the flaps stay open. There's some hardware that people could plug in, like something in the OBD2 port or the electronics in the trunk. I checked both of those. There's nothing there. Another one is you pull the vacuum hoses off the valves. I checked, and they are in place. So the only other thing I can think of is they did something in the software, so they're always open. So I do have it booked in for somebody who is familiar with flashes and undoing flashes, etc. So I'm hoping that takes care of that. So it's a bit more of a project than, just jump in and go and enjoy the hell of it. I thought the other thing I did, which is really easy, is we were talking about dark interiors. It had limo tint like all the way around except for the windshield, which one on the front windows is illegal in California. So I pulled the tint off, and it's so much nicer to drive during the day. It's way lighter, more airy, even though it's still all black with silver trim. So that's been the journey so far. Like it drives exactly like the other one. There's a couple creaks and rattles that I want to chase, and there's a door seal that I want to replace because both cars have this odd, like kind of loud wind noise, like right by your ear in the driver's door. But oddly enough, they both have the same tear and the same seal in the same place. So I'm going to replace those seals, and hopefully that'll fix that issue. But so, but that is not a replacement for the NSX. It's more a replacement for the ISF.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I mean, one question that sort of springs to mind is, like, you talked about this inspection, the lemon something, right?
Lemon Squad. Yes.
Lemon Squad. It feels like they didn't do their job.
No. So I keep meaning to write them a stern email saying, hey, I mean, worst case, they'll tell me to just, F off. And then best case, they'll say, I'm very sorry. We didn't do a good job. Like, here's partial refund of the $300 you paid us. But when I go to their website, I don't see a contact us info. I see phone numbers. So I'm just like, okay, I keep meaning to write this email to tell them, like, hey, and I should say it could be that, they didn't have someone who is specialized in Alfa Romeo in Alabama. However, you don't need to be a specialist in Alfa Romeo to look and see a sheet metal screw through a bumper cover is not normal.
Totally.
Like, I think anyone could look at that and go, that doesn't seem normal. So,
I mean, because it's sort of like, what are you paying for if they're not going to pull things like that up?
Absolutely.
Right? Like, that's kind of, that's a bit nuts. To your point as well, like, I am kind of curious about the Venn diagram of like Alfa owners in Alabama. Like that's a group that I would be very curious to understand
Yeah,
more
I mean,
about.
maybe in the bigger cities they've got some dealers, but like even like
Hey,
in the US in larger metros, like they are dropping fast. Alpha dealers
yeah,
are
yeah.
dropping
I
quickly.
was going to say there's not that many alpha owners in the US overall, let
No,
alone
there's
like
not.
between the coasts. I wouldn't expect.
Yeah, I see this semi regularly on the Julia forums that I recently joined. People are like, "Oh, another one bites the dust." Like, "Oh, this one in Detroit closed,"
Yeah,
and they're I think some of them are saying like, "Well, I have nothing to sell. There's no inventory.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm
Right, right.
I'm sitting on like 50 Stelvios. I have one Stelvio quadrifolio, and I've got 3 Julias, and that's it. That's all I
Yeah,
have to sell. So
yeah.
it's a tough one. Yeah. In fact, the dealer I'm going to next week, they're actually not officially an Alpha dealer. They are
Hmm.
Jeep, Dodge, Chrysler, or Jeep, Dodge,
Yeah.
Ram. However, they have a tech who is a master certified Alpha tech. So,
Hmm.
so he should be able to help me, at least
Yeah,
with this ECU flash and some other small things. But
yeah.
yeah, so that's been experience so far. I still pine away for a Lamborghini Huracan. I'm looking at them all the time. They're not dropping in price though, which is concerning. I really wanted them to, and they're not.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering if that's the Temerario effect, much like the Revuelto really pushed up values of the Aventador because people and the Revuelto prices have dropped rapidly. People don't really like
Hmm.
it. I'm wondering if the Temerario is the same. It's like, well, you went from an NAV10 to now a hybrid twin turbo V8. It doesn't sound as good. It doesn't have the same emotion. I don't think it looks
Yeah,
as good either.
yeah.
So yeah, my game of like hoping that Huracans would continue to drop doesn't appear to be panning out. So yeah, I'm just playing the lottery, I guess, hoping my numbers come in.
Yeah, I think I'm joining you on that. Yeah, that's the only way I'm gonna get keys like that in my hand. Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame as well. It's like I feel like there was a moment, or at least not that long ago, when like cars like they lost a lot of value.
Oh
And
yeah.
and it seems like actually or maybe that was, I don't know, like through COVID, because the sort of prices all like, popped quite a lot. And I don't see, oh, excuse me, I'm losing my voice here a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Got a frog in my throat. Just getting a bit emotional talking about used car prices.
You got a quad fog in your throat? Sorry?
Something like that. And it's because the vacuum actuated things are not like normally it would close, but it's just open the whole time.
So the
That's why it's
flaps are
droning a
open.
lot.
You say you need a reflash, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. We've discovered it's not a hardware issue, it's a software issue.
Yes, you're right though. Like prices did drop a lot, and given how many Huracans were made, like again, the number I hear all the time is 20,000. Like that's a lot.
Mm.
That's a lot of cars.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I went down a rabbit hole on YouTube last night. It's like 2 in the morning, and I'm watching YouTube, and this guy who's a dealer, you like YouTuber who opened a dealership in Texas, talking about his experience, and his bread and butter is Ferraris, and he's just like, he has had a couple Huracans come through, and he's like, there's just something about these Lamborghinis that brings out the nut jobs. And he's saying, look, I post my cars on Facebook. Like I think they're in Houston. I post the cars on Facebook, and we sold a lot of cars via Facebook, where the first touch or first inquiry is through there. Something about the Lamborghinis brings out the nut jobs. And he said, I've got 200
and that's the
messages.
community to which you consider yourself.
This is the community to which I aspire to join. I might need to relook at my values.
Yeah.
But he was saying like, the ratio of like, sane to like ridiculous actual leads is like 1 to 200. And he just gets all these crazy pings of people like, hey, I got 100,000. And he's like, no. He's like, hey, I'll give you 150. And he's like, I'm asking 215. I know, but like the taxes. He's like, well, you got to pay taxes on every car. What does that have to do with me?
Yeah.
And then just a lot of like, I got 50 cents and a chicken nugget and stuff like that. It's like, oh man, this will be my people's.
Yeah. I mean, I would be surprised if like McLaren's attracted the same kind of messages.
Yeah.
Or like the Lotus Emira ownership community. Seems like a bit more tweed wearing.
Yeah, well,
I would
the Lotus
guess.
folks would be asking, like, are all the speakers there, and is the paint bubbling on the doors? Not to knock Lotus or Mira, but I mean that is the part of the reality of those cars.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Speaking of which, like, I don't know if you followed the finances, but man, Lotus and Aston continue to be in massive trouble. Aston is perplexing because they seem to have a good product mix. Lotus does not. Amira sales continue to drop. No one wants their EVs. Although I think they're selling their EVs decently in China, but nowhere else.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting.
A few of them around here as well, but I mean they're wildly expensive.
And the Electre and I don't remember the sedan's name because I just don't
Me
care.
neither. Yeah, exactly.
A Lotus EV sedan. I don't care. Okay. Well, yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens. There's some great analysis on there about McLaren, Lotus, Aston Martin. Maybe I'll dig it up and for our next one we can chat about it.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one to look at. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
particularly because it seems like Aston are doing better, right? Like they're always kind of like touch and go, and yet somehow I don't know. Maybe having a billionaire involved is helpful.
Yeah, I think they're constantly like, well, another cash injection from what's his name, Lawrence Stroll.
Yeah.
No, Lance is the son in F1, right?
Lawrence
is the dad.
Lawrence and Lance. I mean, it's not deeply imaginative. But I don't know. Maybe all the money got in the way of the creativity.
Perhaps. Well, I think maybe we should wrap this one up. Yeah. Unless you had something.
I think
burning.
It's dinner time for me. So
so you need to get some dinner, man.
Other than a frog in my throat, I'll have a rumble in my tumble.
And you'll be here in the good old US of A next week. So we may try and record something.
Yeah, we can try and do something IRL.
Yes.
Maybe in one quad frog.
Oh,
or other.
We could do dueling quad fogs.
Yeah. We could each be in a quad fog.
I like your term for it, the octofog. Octofog has been unleashed, and my wallet is shaking with fear. My wallet's like, what have you done?
Your wallet is like, oh, another Alfa Romeo. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Why not just go get a 156 at this point? And I don't know. Yeah. We go pick up an old Aston Martin and maybe a L322 as well.
Yeah, exactly. Get yourself a baggy Range Rover as well, just to add insult to injury.
Just go all in. Just go all in, man.
Yeah. Screw it. And by the time you're done with that, you may as well have just bought the Huracan.
Yes, if you add up the maintenance thing, it's like, well, you could have just bought that, you fool. All right. Well, this is wrapping. I believe it's episode 11. Gosh, I hope it's episode 11 because we've said that a couple times. If you have feedback, questions, criticisms, concerns, or want us to hang out with you, info@npptg.com. Cool. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Laters.